What's up, y'all? This is Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 8, Reunion Part 2. If y'all want me to put the link up to the episode, then y'all gonna have to like this video and it will be up on Twitter. But you gotta like this video. So we're gonna get into it. There was some issues I felt the ways about. My hair puffed up. Anyways, but yeah, there were some issues I felt some ways about. All right, so let's get into it. First off, we're gonna get into the whole fight situation with Cynthia and Portia. Now they talked about how the fight started, and Cynthia was like, you know what, I may have been too turned up. So I take full responsibility for my part. And Portia's like, yeah, and I take responsibility for my part also. And so Candy is like, well, yeah, and I just want to say that, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry because we actually told Portia to go over there to apologize to you, and we probably shouldn't have did it since it was still in the heat of the moment. And she was like, but I gotta be honest, when I saw her go over there and kind of straddle you, I would have kicked her in the stomach too. And so then they get into the whole, well, Portia's like, well, I didn't straddle her when she got up and she grabbed my hand. Then we started straddling each other, but it wouldn't have happened if she didn't grab my hand. And then Cynthia's like, yeah, and it would have never happened if she wouldn't have started straddling me. So now I'm like, okay, we need to move on from this topic because we done already got past it, right? We got past it, right? And we decided that it was both of our faults. We shouldn't have went into that, huh? So why are y'all sitting here about to go into this? It's just, sometimes I just feel like it is a bad thing that they have to go through these things after they done moved on. So then they go into the whole part, and you told Phaedra that I did, your stomach was all bruised up, and I didn't do all that to you, and Portia's like, you know what, it could have came from, the producers and stuff jumping on me and trying to break me up, but I mean, you did kick me in my stomach. You did, basically. She said, what is it? Abdominal intrusion? Is that what she said? I don't know what it's called. Okay. So she's basically saying, yeah, some of those bruises did come from other people, but you did mess up my stomach. So I just feel like they need to move on. They bring out Peter, and Andy's asking, like, are y'all separated? And he was like, well, right now, I spend most of my time in Charlotte and she's down here in Atlanta, so we got both of our businesses, but we see each other when we can. And so he's like, well, that sounds like a separation to me. He was like, see, why when a man goes off to the military, they don't say that there's separation? Why gotta be separation with us? And then he asked Peter, do you feel like you were guilty in that video? He's like, I feel like the video made me look very guilty. Absolutely. But no, I have not cheated. Oh, no. He said, no, I am not guilty. So then they get into the whole situation with Portia. How did they even get into that? Asking Portia about the man, or I'm not the man, the women that be messing with Peter, since she knows so many of them. And she was like, well, I do know a few, but I mean, that's not my business. I don't want to go into it. And he's like, please go ahead and tell me about the women that I'd have messed with. She was like, well, I know one through one other person, but, I'm not going to go ahead and say their name because they're not on the show. So I'm like, okay, what's the point of even bringing it up? Leave it alone. Cynthia's like, nobody showed up on my doorstep in all this time. Like, it's just not true. what else happened? They bring up Phaedra and Candy situation about taking the kids to the jail, okay, to go see Apollo, and she was like, I did it. Okay, and he was happy to see us. They were like, was he happy to see you, or was he happy to see the kids? She was like, he was happy to see us. Okay, because he asked me to come along. And he was like, oh, for some conjugal visits. And she was like, I don't even think it's allowed at that prison. But, I mean, it wasn't as emotional as I thought it was going to be. It was weird because you had somebody over on the side, one of the other prisoners masturbating. And they were like, did you actually see it? It was like, well, the pants were down and something was going on. I had to explain that to my kids. So I was like, for real? Was it that noticeable? Wouldn't the guard see it? Anyways, so she was like, well, I took my kids to go see him, so now everybody else can stop, with their little side comments on how I need to go take my kids to see Apollo when they don't even pay my bills. So, Andy, old messy ass, who was it? Who are you talking about, Phaedra? And she was like, everybody that has some type of comment, about me going to take it, except for you, Kim. You just came. And they were like, so are you talking about Candy? And yes, Candy was one of them. Candy was like, look, okay, since you went ahead and took a little dig at me, I wasn't even going to talk about it. But here's the real. I am supposed to be your friend, Phaedra. I'm going to tell you how I feel. I mean, I'm just not going to tell you everything you want to hear. I just don't roll like that. So, Phaedra's like, well, the problem is that when you're sensitive about something, I will not go ahead and say anything to you about it. Okay? So I just expect you to leave it alone. Well, here's the thing on that. Okay? Phaedra, you know that Candy is sensitive about her husband. You talk about him all the time on this season. But I get it. I get both parts, I guess. Because Candy is, I guess, kind of like me in a way. Like, I'm going to tell you if I'm your friend or whatever like that. I'm going to tell you how I feel. Like, if I feel like you being wrong, I'm going to tell you wrong. And, I mean, but it could be just my opinion. But that's what it is. But it also can come off as too intrusive. So I get that part. Now, people want to go and say Candy's worried. Because Candy also said she was, concerned when she saw that Dylan doesn't have a relationship with Apollo because he's so young. And, Phaedra's like, that's his fault. He went to jail. True, it is his fault, but do you still want him to have a relationship with his father? And even, Candy was like, it doesn't matter he went to jail. He's going to be out. Dylan's going to be, I guess, 6. And what now? They going to have to start all over again? So, I just think it's a tricky situation. People are trying to say, well, Candy is so worried about Dylan had a relationship with his father, but Riley doesn't have a relationship with her father. And this is also what I'm going to say. Okay, now, Candy has talked more about the situation with her baby daddy off of Real Housewives, but on Candy Coated Nights. Okay, the situation seemed to be there was another, producer. I actually had heard of him before. We ain't gonna say his name. Plot. And she was basically in a 2-month relationship with him when she became pregnant. And, like most women have been in this situation, he had another woman and she did not know it. She had to find out that she was the side. So they broke up. Okay? And, the kid and the father, they never had a relationship. She tried to get child support out of him. Down here, I guess she said it's not easiest to get child support from I guess men or whatever, how the system is set up. So she said, you know what, you ain't ever got to worry about me asking for money from you for our kid. So that's what made her hustle even harder and try to get these businesses going. Now on the show earlier in the seasons, I believe the first and second season, we saw Riley and her dad trying to have a relationship. We didn't actually see her dad on the show, but you saw Riley as a little kid trying to talk with her or whatever, and Riley, by that time, at that age, she didn't really care. She was probably like 6, 7 years old. It had been just her and her mama. She was comfortable with that. A daddy or whatever, she wasn't used to that. She didn't really care at all. So Candy also on one of the reunions, she was crying because she was like, it breaks my heart that Riley doesn't want a relationship with her dad. But he did come in late, but I'm not used to that. I've always had a male figure in my life. I guess that's what she was saying. So I feel like the situation with Riley and her dad still not being there now is her dad's fault. And I believe that's why it hurt Candy so much that Dylan could possibly not have a relationship with his dad because he's so young. And it's not like Apollo doesn't want to be his dad. It's not like, he went into this thinking that, okay, I'm going to abandon my kids. He did put himself in that situation, but he wants a relationship with his kids. And I think that's why it hurts Candy. So, I mean, it is a touchy situation. Even though Candy has her feelings about it, I think she should just leave it alone. Leave it alone. That is Phaedra's, whole deal. She's going to have to deal with that. It's okay. It really is. It's okay. She's just going to have to let it alone if, she still wants to be friends. So that's it. That's all I'm going to say about that. What else happened? All I could think about is them. Oh, they talked about Kenya and her mother's relationship. Now, Kenya, they bring up to Kenya's attention that when she won Miss USA, that her mother tried to call her and that she had allegedly turned her around and was like, I don't want to talk to you. And it could have been because, she was trying to jump on the bandwagon. It could have been that way. So Kenya was like, no, this is what really happened. When I won Miss USA and, what did she say? Miss Universe or something like that. They were trying to do an article with Kenya and Kenya's mom. And Kenya said she knew her mom. She got a call from her and was like, may I speak to Kenya more? And she was just like, she's not here right now. So some family members later came on to tell her that your mom just wanted to tell you to ask them not to bother her about doing the whole article. Don't speak on her when you do that article. So she's saying that was it. It wasn't that her mom was trying to build a relationship with her. It was just that she didn't want an article done on her. So, I think that's a tricky situation. They asked Portia, what did she feel about, not what did she feel, why did she say that Kenya doesn't know how to love because she has never received love? She was like, well, I feel like Kenya, the way she acts, she hasn't received love. You can tell from her mom that she's rejected her, so she's never gotten love from her mom. And Kenya was like, yeah, I was offended by that because, I get plenty of love. As you can see, I'm the apple of my daddy's eye. And I'm sitting there thinking like, we don't see that. We do not see that. But she's like, I get plenty of love. I just don't get it from my mom. So, whatever. They go into the whole Miami situation with the Glenn and, what's that chick's name? Tammy. I about to say I can't think of that crazy heifer. But well, I can't call it crazy. She just weird. Okay, so the whole thing is the women, other than Candy and even Cynthia didn't say much about it, and Kenya, they all feel like Kenya was attacking him. They feel like Kenya provoked him, and they bring up Phaedra and Sheree talking about how we have to stop doing this to black men, how we treat them like white women in suburbia treats them, and using a whole Michael Brown reference. And I was so pissed off when I saw them do that. I was heated. If you go back to that old video, I do not remember. I just remember that was like in December. I believe I was in Cleveland. So yeah, it was in December. So them saying that was just so offensive. And even Kenya brought up like the president of Black Lives Matter told you, do not compare Mike Brown to Glenn. The fool is crazy. We even heard just a week after that happened, he had got, shot in the leg at an in an altercation. He had got basically in trouble with the NBA several times because of his aggressiveness. And he's just crazy. And then Phaedra's like, well, you're just acting like that because you liked him and he didn't want you. I'm gonna have to side with Kenya on this. That fool was crazy. Yes, Kenya, when they were out at dinner and Tammy introduced her nephews, yes, Kenya invited them. Yes, Kenya was digging him at first. She was, but the shit that he was saying about even the other girls, and y'all keep trying to take up for him, you sound ridiculous. You sound fucking ridiculous. Okay? So, excuse me, y'all. So, anyways, Candy is like, yeah, I feel like he was threatening, okay? And Kim was like, I didn't find him threatening. And Candy was like, so you didn't find him threatening? When he came over to me and they showed the clip and he said, well, I don't want you anyways. You ain't got to have an attitude. And she was like, well, I thought it was awkward. I didn't think it was threatening. You didn't think it was threatening, him getting aggressive over no reason? Him saying congratulations and her saying thank you and he just started going off? You didn't think that was threatening? Okay. So Sheree, all of them, they're like, I didn't feel it. Cynthia was like, I didn't have an altercation with him, but if I remember correctly, Cynthia saw the way he was acting and she took her ass upstairs like, yeah, I seen this before. I ain't about to let this happen. Right with Candy. They both went upstairs. So the whole Kenya was provoking him. Kenya shouldn't have told him. She should have told the security. Kenya told Tammy. Tammy was like, okay, I'm going to get rid of him. I don't want y'all to feel uncomfortable. He asked Kenya why he had to leave. So Kenya replied back, you just make us feel real uncomfortable. And then that's when he started with, hey, little bitch. Hey, see, I ain't gonna play with you. And then he sat there and he knocked out his own aunt. How do y'all not see that this fool is crazy? How do you not see that fool is crazy? Like, what is wrong with y'all? Even Candy was like, what are y'all talking about? Y'all doing this because that's Kenya. That is why y'all acting like that. Y'all trying to say that he wasn't threatening. He was calling her all types of B's. He was aggressive towards her like he was about to do something. He was aggressive towards a pregnant woman. He should have never said that. He should have never been like that. He should have never been throwing up gang signs and all types of shit. And so they sitting over there quiet, and she was like, why you ain't got nothing to say now? So yes, on that note, this is over. This part 2 is over. Those girls, they disgusted me with that. The whole trying to give that man an excuse, trying to say he was provoked Even Andy called Kim out on it, like, well, you said that was poking a hornet's nest. Well, that means he was basically a ticking time bomb. Okay, so I'm done with that. I ain't about to get my blood pressure up over that fool. So that's it. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at JazzShaman, and y'all be easy.